Reflex Stormage, thank you for your super chat. You got the honor of being the first super chatter of today's stream. You said rotations are too damn complicated, and this then brings up, I think, a fairly interesting thing. It's also kind of timely because one of the topics we'll be discussing later on, though via I think a different different angle, a different lens, is rotation helpers. And it actually, if I bring it up here, because I have a little place where I jot down video ideas. I had a video idea that was it was just called in my notes. Yeah, here it is. This add-on plays WoW for you. It's obviously Hikili, or whatever it's called, because I've never used it. And I thought, hang on, how about I get Hikili, and then I get Gnome Sequencer, and then I implement the most dangerous tool, the mouse wheel. Because Blizzard's one action, like one, hardware input equals one action in game. You just get your scroll wheel. It'll just go to dozens of actions. Indeed, that's people who use Trade Skill Master, and they're like, okay, how do I post 500 auctions? They got a Logitech mouse with an infinite scroll wheel, and they flick it. they just spin that motherfucker.
If you're not familiar, this is one of them. This little thing will unlock the scroll wheel. So this is it. You'll not be able to hear it, but there's like a little click, and I flick it, and it stops. But if I unlock it and I go,
it's still going.
Yep. And
still going.
And there. So that was about 8 to 10 seconds of inputs being pushed through.
That's it. We just got you to watch a mouse wheel slow down for 10 seconds. Riveting stream. God, we're amazing. So anyway, this is my idea, right? Like, this add-on plays WoW for you, because there's that kind of thing with a lot of games. There's a lot of games that have an extreme amount of depth from a small amount of buttons. I think about some of the newer League of Legends champions, and I'm thinking like, wow, how can you fit this many university degrees into that many buttons? I forgot what the character was exactly, but I remember you took a look at it like maybe 6 months ago, and you're just like, Michael, since we played League of Legends, holy shit, this is insane. And not that World of Warcraft is always like that.
Phelios is the one who is basically 2 champions in one.
Yeah.
Literally.
Then I think about the Demon Hunter. And this is an interesting thing. One of the people, one of our dear friends, does enjoy playing, the more simple class. Sometimes, he would have been operating his keyboard at, a somewhat diminished capacity because of certain recreational elements. Which, having done the same, you're just like, yeah, I'm a fucking Demon Hunter, dude. You're having a great time. You're watching the 3 shiny buttons light up as you sit there with your demon blades. Now, whenever that build was competitive, all those things were okay. Little bit more of a problem when, now playing a Demon Hunter as John Madden. And I think that illustrates an interesting point, because for quite a long time, the Demon Hunter was supposed to be that like more approachable thing, because not everyone wants to play a Subtlety Rogue. I know that because like I've seen Subtlety. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool. Don't want to play it though. Right? Rotations, too damn complicated. But here's the problem though, because what you could really be asking for is, I just want some gameplay variety. Different strokes for different folks. Look at League of Legends, right? You've got so many different champions. Some of them are very simple. Some of them are very much not very simple. That's great, works for everybody. But the problem, I think, in World of Warcraft, at least in the PvE context, is you can't just... you can, but you just have that problem of like, all right, it's not worth playing Feral Druid. So I know it's way more complicated, but we can't make it good enough, like numbers-wise, to justify that without it being super overpowered and breaking the game. So that's kind of thing. How do you deal with the problem of, rotations are too complicated?
You basically can't, which is the really awkward part, and that's why you look at how classes are today, and they're, outside of a few outliers, they're all rough. There's like a decent parity to where their complicatedness comes in, and sometimes it's in different forms, but they're all roughly similar.
Oh, apparently sub is actually easier now. Okay, cool.
Sub
I
is
remember
easier.
it ages ago when it was, I think it was like, lots of shadow dancing and stuff going on.
Sub is easier, like, generally speaking, but it does have a pretty intense opener. Like, its opener is one of the only ones on, like, guides that have, like, a visual element. Like the FF14 guides all have, like, an opener thing with the off GCDs. It's the same for the sub one, which is actually, I think, pretty interesting. I like it for that. But it's the problem of if you make it hard, then it has to be rewarded for that. But World of Warcraft has a problem with class balance, and they can't balance something within 1 or 2%. And even if you do balance something within 1 and 2%, you go, okay, well then this person, or say this class, this spec, say as an example, Sub Rogue. Sub Rogue is doing more damage, but it's really hard to play. Everyone in the game will say, if you're not playing Sub Rogue, you're an idiot. Because everyone thinks they can do max DPS. Or they want to do max DPS. And that's always the problem, as opposed to, okay, and now, like, you could, because the point is, theoretically, you play something easier, and that frees you up to do other things. Where, okay, this is really easy. This is like Frost Mage before the rework there, where it was just completely, if you couldn't do well at Frost Mage, like, there was no hope for you playing any other spec, basically, because it was so simple and so easy. But then you could just kind of go, all right, well then I don't have to do anything, which means you play that on progression and you don't have to, like, get overwhelmed by mechanics. Just go, I'll just shoot my frost bolts, and then, oh, what's the most complicated thing I do? Frost bolt, flurry, ice lance. Wow, incredible, unbelievable. Versus the, like, just everyone else sweating like crazy over hitting their buttons. The weak auras for outlaws, like looking at the 6 roll the bones buffs and like running in their head, or getting a weak aura going, when do I reroll? Others like 8 seconds left. Should I reroll now or should I not with these combinations of buffs? But is my cooldown window coming up? What do I do? Versus, it's that meme of the guy sweating hitting the keyboard versus the other dude singing. It's basically that. And the problem there is that just in World of Warcraft's culture goes way too far. And it's full on, well, you either play the good thing or you don't, or you're a shitter. And that's fine if they're balanced in a couple percent of each other, but it is rewarding the hard versus easy. And WoW's never been good at that. There's a point where it doesn't matter because people will play what they like, whatever. But it's the meta trickling down, as we've seen with the God comp. It's like,
we'll get. I brought this up because I think this one super chat, like, it sows the seed of multiple themes that are going to be coming up later today.
Yeah, I think it's a complicated thing because I really love playing skillful stuff, and it's where talents were supposed to come in and help. Where talents were supposed to come in and go, hey, would you like the easy version of this spec or the hard version of this spec? And you can do that to some degree. Like Feral Druid, you can take blood talons or you can not. That's damage-wise, they're close enough that it's like, if you struggle with blood talons, it's probably not worth taking, because then you'll be able to, you'll be able to do more damage without blood talons because if you can't play with it correctly. But then you look at like Arcane Mage, and you go, why are you playing a human calculator? Like, when you could just, there's no other way to play that because of how the interactions work. And some of it feels like there's unintentional stuff coming out of it. There's like unintentional ways talents interact that result in unintentional gameplay and unintentional balance stuff, which is just the team seem to have issues with getting their numbers straight all the time. But you're like, I don't really know what. Yeah, it's like blood talents isn't particularly hard, but it is one more thing to think about. And if that one more thing is your line of where your brain is now full, then, my brain has been filled with blood talons, which means I get hit in raid, as an example, versus if I don't take blood talons, I don't have to look at that, and then I can dodge mechanics because my brain isn't thing.
And for a lot of people, that's now more fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, like, the bit that they find the most fun is the raid mechanic.
Yep.
It's kind of an infinite discussion, I suppose. One I think we're going to bench for now, because we will return to this pretty shortly, and it will be somewhat spicy.